Excited for their date, Akane is unable to contain her excitement for the next day. The next morning, upon meeting up, both Natsuru and Akane decide to head to a water park. Unfortunately, Shizuku and Mikoto sneak up on them and reveal that they too will be staying in the same hotel that night. Regardless, the girls notice Natsuru isn't all enthused, but he finally lights up upon seeing Kaede, although she's too busy looking for his female version. As such, Shizuku tells her that she'll come along later. Now by the swimming pool, the girls attempt to show off their bathing suits to Natsuru, but he's too busy staring at Kaede. Eventually, he asks her to go swim with him, but she declines. Instead, they go down a water slide where Mikoto ends up pushing Akane off a diving board. Afterwards, Shizuku ends up sitting really close to Natsuru, but Akane moves in closer while Mikoto is left behind. Kaede then shows some support for Shizuku by telling Natsuru not to go for other girls. Shortly after, he transforms and Kaede goes up to him and asks if she could teach her to swim. However, he tries to wingman his male self, but she instantly shoots down the notion. He then continues to try harder, only to get his spirit and heart broken. Thus, he finally gives up and helps Kaede as his female self. While helping, Kaede grabs hold of Natsuru thinking she was going to drown. Akane then comes over to separate the two, but Kaede doesn't let go, causing Akane to cling on him as well. Shizuku then comes to the rescue, but three girls from earlier are seen watching them. Nevertheless, Shizuku sends Natsuru to go shopping, but is given the wrong directions. As such, he asks for directions, but a girl turns around and shows her white bracelet before firing an attack. Natsuru blocks it but gets sent backwards, and another appears wielding a sword, making Natsuru fall over. While they have Natsuru at gunpoint, they begin introducing themselves and reveal that Kaede plays an important role in this battle set up by the moderators. Luckily, Akane fires a bullet, but the two begin to argue in front of the dumbfounded white Kampfers. Still outnumbered, Shizuku finally arrives and reveals that she knew they would reveal themselves if one of them were alone. Meanwhile, Akane and Natsuru begin to argue again, which allows the white Kampfers to escape with Hitomi firing her Zauber to create a blinding light. Shizuku counters by throwing her Schwartz in hopes of stopping them, but misses. As such, Shizuku begins to have suspicions about Kaede. Later that day, male Natsuru collapses onto his bed, exhausted from the ordeal earlier. He recalls that he went to see Kaede, but she was more worried about female Natsuru. Suddenly, the door opens and messengers all walk in, having been to the hot spring. They then ask Natsuru to help dry them up, which he aggressively does so. The phone then rings and Mikoto invites them to their room to hang out before the fireworks begin. He then finds Akane on his bed, expecting a sussy moment, but it's all a misunderstanding. Nevertheless, they group decide to watch the fireworks outside while Kaede gets worried for when female Natsuru will be showing up. Regardless, she pours a drink into 2 cups, hisses one and hands it over to Natsuru, surprising everyone. However, the girls bring up how Natsuru had a date with Shizuku, whom doesn't help him in the situation at all, instead makes it worse by showing the present he gave her. As such, Mikoto gets super angry at Natsuru for not telling her, especially about the kiss. Thus, Shizuku kisses Natsuru again right in front of everyone, but she explains to Kaede that it's a one-sided love affair. Mikoto then berates Shizuku for doing it and turns to Akane for help, but she's too shocked to do anything. Meanwhile, Kaede stands up to take Natsuru outside where she hypnotizes him, and the two start watching the fireworks without the others. Natsuru then finds himself next to Kaede, who tries to hypnotize him to make Shizuku his. She then disappears when Natsuru, who can't remember anything, is confronted by Akane, Shizuku, and Mikoto. As such, they return to the hotel where Kaede doesn't appear to recall anything, either like a sussy beka. Afterwards, they all head to go to the baths, where Natsuru's lightning-quick hypnotism kicks in again, causing him to head over to Shizuku's room to make a daring romantic move. However, during his hypnosis, Shizuku ends up kissing him again, which causes him to actually snap out of his hypnotism brought upon him. As such, Shizuku asks why Natsuru came after her, being displeased by hearing that he was forced to go after her by Sakura. Thus, she knocks out Natsuru and leaves with giving him a kiss again, but this time on the cheek, saying that she won't let him have her way with her so easily due to her pride, although feeling a little regret for giving up the chance she has. It is then revealed that Kaede appears to be in total command of the white Kampfers. Nevertheless, the next day, Kaede whispers something in Shizuku's ear, basically saying that she should swallow her pride, which easily confirms her suspicions from earlier. Now with the truth finally revealed, Shizuku invites Natsuru over to her house to tell her about Kaede, where she gets Kaede's burnt-to-death lion doll to spill the beans about the Kampfer system. She then recalls that her close friend Tamiko was destroyed in an intense Kampfer battle, and has ever since sworn vengeance against whomever is responsible for the establishment of Kampfer combat. As such, when Natsuru confronts Kaede about this, he once again falls under Kaede's hypnotism. With Natsuru now under her control, Kaede and the White Kampfers successfully trap and capture Shizuku, Akane, and Mikoto. Nevertheless, when the three of them wake up later chained together, Kaede tries to get Natsuru to finish them herself, but he spots a keychain he previously bought for Shizuku and is luckily able to snap out of the hypnotism and begins declaring that he will not betray his friends despite his undying love for Kaede. His epic declaration encourages Shizuku, Akane, and Mikoto to fight with renewed resolve, enabling them to break free and allowing them to easily defeat the White Kampfer. Thus, Kaede tries enticing Natsuru once again, and he transforms back into normal form, putting himself out of the fight and out of Kaede's disposal, as well as forcing Kaede and the White Kampfer into retreat. With the battle now over, Shizuku, Akane, and Mikoto turn their attention to Natsuru, initially jumping him for trying to make out with Kaede in front of them, before once again competing against each other to see who can appeal to Natsuru best with their qualities, to the point of kissing him, grabbing his hands, and doing very sussy things not allowed on YouTube. Regardless, Natsuru wakes up one day on Christmas Eve morning to find out that he and his tiger messenger, Harakiri Tora, have actually swapped bodies. As such, Tora decides to head on outside to enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime occasion to meet Natsuru's friends Mikoto, Shizuku, and Akane on the streets, only to notice that they've been body swapped with their messengers as well. As such, the messengers have fun with their new bodies until they are caught sneaking out from a food bill and are told to perform in a show as reparations. Meanwhile, Kaede then encounters them and takes them to an amusement park, where they begin to get hyped and play very sussy games with her. Afterwards, Kaede goes to a church to confess the sin of having feelings for multiple girls, but she just ends up being punished by the student council. Nevertheless, the messengers come to save her, but end up fighting each other when they discover that now they can actually feel pain. As such, after saying their goodbyes to Kaede, they ride off on a sleigh, with the whole thing being a bizarre Christmas story that we totally expected. The next day in school, Kaede seems her usual harmless self and Shizuku interrogates Hayaburi Rain, where she soon becomes convinced that Kaede is either a moderator or somehow allied to them. Meanwhile, Akane and Mikoto's kissing practice becomes the real deal and is observed by Sayaka Nakao. As such, Mikoto's pursuit of Sayaka leads her to the other White Kampfer and Tsundere Bakuhatsu Penguin, who ends up hypnotizing her. As such, Kaede then invites female Natsuru to see the stars. Upon arriving, Kaede says something about fulfilling her promise to him and says to her that it's true that Natsuru does actually love her. Regardless, later on with Kaede lying down, Natsuru turns back to his male form on top of Kaede, where she tells him to lead. Now this episode becomes super sussy, so I will leave it to your imagination. Mikoto then arrives, but in hypnotized form. However, with Natsuru still in his male form, Kaede stands up, pins Natsuru down. Mikoto then sits on him and begins to do sussy things. Luckily, Shizuku and Akane arrive in their Kampfer form, where Akane quickly shoots Kaede, causing her to fall down. Meanwhile, Mikoto transforms into her Kampfer form to battle Shizuku. While the two fight, Kaede stands up unharmed, saying that it's rude to shoot her like that. Regardless, Akane tries to shoot again, so she summons her sword while Akane chases after her. Shizuku then tells Natsuru to follow the two since it's the perfect time to escape, and reveals that Mikoto needs to be shocked to no longer be hypnotized. As such, Natsuru escapes, turning to his Kampfer form, and follows Kaede and Akane. On his way, he encountered the rest of the White Kampfers. However, the White Kampfers, minus Ryoka, begins to argue to each other, so Natsuru quickly burns them with his Zauber. Shizuku, making a gun out of her fingers, shoots Mikoto, causing her to turn back to normal. Thus, Mikoto and Shizuku follow the others, but Akane and Kaede end up in a circus. Enter a Mexican standoff until Mikoto appears to save Akane and Shizuku, but left herself in danger. Luckily, Natsuru arrives to save Mikoto while Kaede is reunited with the other escaping White Kampfers. Afterwards, Shizuku asks Natsuru how far he went with Kaede, with the other two girls super curious as well. However, he runs while the girls chase him in his Kampfer form, while Mikoto is left behind hurting.